Hello, welcome to today's session on data analysis, presentation, and interpretation. That means we're trying to make meaningful information from the data. I'm sure we are done with data collection, and you have actually been an active participant in this process. But today we have to move on and do, look into whatever you have collected from the field. And basically, we've just spent some minutes in looking into analysis, presentation, and interpretation. And data analysis is actually inspecting and making interpretation just to uncover whatever hidden information or other useful information in the data. Are you trying to look into to find out patterns, the likeness of the data, or rather, the differences that exist in the data, the trends and the relationship, and try to think of data analysis as raw ingredients. When you're thinking of preparing food, then you have to go out and gather, ingredients. It could be a pepper, it could be carrot, it could be tomato, it could be, milk. So you want to cook food or salt. So that's data. But in the analysis part of it, you're now looking at the whole process of cooking. So analysis of the data is critical as it helps to better understand the business environment for this case. You understand the situation, the issues, and even try to predict the future. So data is very useful. For example, when you have data analysis can help you predict your business profits. So you have business sales data. They can tell you in terms of the future profit that you might get. So should you invest in that kind of project? And in the same way, in the saving, for example, credit and savings and credit cooperative societies or microfinance, you're able to tell if you can follow along the trends of savings over and over. You can tell whether the saving behavior is making sense or there are lots of problems. And you should be cautious. Now, data analysis, you can go, do this on using a number of tools out there. SPSS, Excel, these are very common. Data tab. But nowadays, with the technological advancement, then you can input data, for example, in the Google form or rather Microsoft form, then automatically the analysis is done automatically. So it's always good to be up to date. Now, when we say data analysis, there are some kind of very common terms. For example, frequency, the counts. How many times did this something happen? Okay, the percentages as a part of the whole, expressed in out of 1,000. I'm sure we have been doing this one from kindergarten throughout, But also the mean score, when you're dealing with the continuous data or rather discrete data, you say the age of 20 pupils or rather students, and then you say, okay, I just want to know what is the central time, or rather the mid term, okay? I mean, if you can say it in that way. So the average number. Then you might be asking yourself, is this group, you know, performance the same as this group? For example, there are a number of, you know, academic programs, you know. So at the graduation time, then if I say, okay, which group performed higher than the other one? And whether their performance is really bigger, you know, than the other one. So you're trying to compare. Or maybe you have 4 or 5 kind of loan packages, then you're asking yourself whether package A performs better than package B in terms of loan repayment or other profits. So you can compare their averages. If the other average is higher, maybe one is 120 and the other one is 100, or maybe the other one is 120, another one is 118, then you see 118, a very small kind of difference. 120 vis-a-vis 100, or there's a big margin. So these are things that usually we do them. It's unfortunate that we don't know that they are really critical in the statistic part of. So, and another thing is that when you're done with the analysis of your data, you have to put them in a manner that they are very, very impressive. When someone looks at your data, he should be attracted. So how do you display your data? How do you organize your data? Think of it as an art of plating food. Once mama has finished cooking, it's not enough. She has to go and try to plate, put food in a way. Sometimes they have to put, some colors, the finishing, Sometimes they have to choose a nice plate. So that's presentation. The same thing, the same food that is prepared, sometimes it sells less, but with, plating and a sort of things, decoration, it says fetches higher prices. So that's all about presentation. So it's really very, very important. Now, how can you do it? You can do it using tables, for example. Rather, you can use it bar charts. This is a table. You can use bar charts, for example, pie charts. For this case, you can see, okay, there's a group with the 26, the highest in this, okay? But you can sort of use a line graph. You see, it tells you, okay, my sales is actually on increase. Or rather, you can even try to compare just what I said in the previous slide. You can just compare the weight, for example, the weight of different age groups. There's an age group of 30 through 35, or rather 35, 40, or above 40. So you can say, okay, maybe this is obese or higher, or whichever. So why is data presentation important? So you actually find out that it makes the data easy to understand. So if you tell me, you give me an individual data, yeah, it will be very difficult to understand what the really data means. But you show me a graph, you show me, I'm able to see, the graph going up, the graph dropping down, then I can tell. Anyone, even a layman, can do that. It also tends to highlight the key insights for decision making. That means, for example, on a weekly basis, you find that on a single day there's a sharp drop. Okay, there's a sharp drop of your sales, and sometimes a very a spike, a sudden spike of your sales, and then so people get to ask why. So it engages the audience. When you make a clear presentation, it tends to attract the people who are watching you when you're presenting, you're right. So let's say, for example, you're presenting a trend of savings over time with the line graph. So people are able to say, oh, people have been making, fantastic. There have been savings. We were down here and now, after a month or two, now we are up there. So it's really very, very interesting to pick the best way to present your data once you have made all the analysis. Now, you don't end up there. When you with those sort of presentation and everything clear, data interpretation should answer the question, what does this data mean? So if, for example, you say, okay, 40% said, or 40% of the sample are not really paying, making repayment on time, or rather maybe you say the bad dates account for 55% of your capital, and then you ask, oh, that should be very, very, threatening, you see. So it has to give you some information. So data interpretation explains and finds the meaning in the results of your data analysis. And it should answer the question, what does this data mean? You're talking about 30% said this. So what does that mean? Okay. So interpretation is trying to understand the flavor of the food. Okay. Mama cooked a very nice food and she plated nicely. She put the food on the table. And it's like, the saliva is, you are salivating. So, but so far you have not tasted the food. You might find a very different story when you start eating. So you get a very, very different situation, or you just find yourself in a very different situation the moment you taste the food. So tasting the food is now making interpretation, understanding what really the data means. And let's take an example. I said this one, you're trying to observe the monthly repayments for a loan group. Maybe you have your three groups, group A, 2, and C. Maybe you can use a bar chart to show the repayments rates, and you might find that, for example, group A has the highest repayment rates. Group C needs policy adjustments. Maybe group C is not performing very well, and then you think, maybe I have to make some sort of adjustment. Should I lower the interest rate for this category? Maybe this category was a student category, they're not really doing, or maybe should I reduce the package, the amount of loan that is issued? So when you look at the data in terms of the presentation, then there's a lot of information. So when you dive in, you can really get insights, understanding of it. And usually data analysis reveals insights from the raw data. Raw data are just numbers and categories and but you know nothing about that one. But when you make this, you try to organize the data, it looks a little bit funny now. And with this presentation, it shares findings clearly, whether in graphs, charts, whichever pie charts or bar charts or sort of things. So data interpretation explains the meaning behind the findings. Together, they enable informed decision in business, such as optimizing loans or sales and repayments, or savings and repayments. Now, let's say that at least now you have an idea of what analysis, presentation, and interpretation means, just in a nutshell. Let's say there's a scenario of a saving groups that tracks average monthly savings of two groups, male and female. Now your task is to calculate the average savings for each group to compare the results and identify which group saves more on average. You may wish to create a bar chart to visualize the results. Right. And these are the data. So the data here, you don't mind if one is obscured, you cannot see it. It's okay, just pick those which you are able to see. My small, big head might be obscuring some of the data, so you might not be able to see, but just pick the ones that you're able to see. Now, for example, you have the male men savings. You can see the female savings in dollars. It's unfortunate. It's in dollars, not in P shillings, but no problem. Maybe this is a weekly. How much do they earn? So here you have maybe 15 women, or maybe you have 20. I don't know how many there are, but you can just do the calculations. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I thought necessary to share very briefly, just in a nutshell, and just to crack your mind and see that you have something now. You could go and read more in detail. So, having said that one, I hope to meet you very soon when you're done with this assignment. Thank you.